Okay, let's unpack this. After nearly a decade of monsters, mythology, and let's be honest, some truly terrifying haircuts, the Stranger Things saga delivered its grand 2-hour finale.
Volume 3 of Season 5.
Exactly. And yet, the sheer confidence of the Duffer Brothers' conclusion is what makes this so fascinating. They gave us an ending that wrapped up every emotional thread, saved the world, confirmed who lived, who died.
But then,
But then, somehow, the single most important piece of cosmic horror, the very beginning of the whole catastrophe, was just left lingering in a mundane 1959 memory. It's absolutely bonkers, isn't it?
it is. The biggest secret was disguised as a tiny glowing rock.
It's a masterclass in narrative delegation, I think.
It really is. What's absolutely compelling here is that the ending manages to be definitive for the specific characters we followed. I mean, the Hawkins story is closed, the immediate threat is gone.
Vanquish.
But the mythology is immediately transferred. It's such a clean break. The creators deliberately reassigned the core origin story of the powers themselves to an entirely different era.
So we're dealing with a handoff.
A very dramatic pivot, really, from a 1980s coming-of-age drama to a deep dive into Cold War scientific hubris.
And that's the core of our deep dive today for you. We've managed to stack up every piece of analysis, dissecting this massive conclusion, from physics journals to fan theories, all confirming this unsettling path forward.
So what's the mission?
Our mission is critical. First, we need to completely decode Operation Beanstalk, that meticulously complicated metaphysical war plan, and really spend time on the science that underpins it.
Right.
Secondly, we have to confirm the casualties, most notably analyzing the intentional, suspenseful ambiguity of Eleven's fate, which, let's be honest, is the part everyone is still arguing about.
Oh, absolutely.
And finally, we have to reveal that tiny, luminous, loose thread, that glowing rock, which doesn't just anchor the next story, but completely reframes the entire catastrophe.
Indeed. We are stepping beyond, the aesthetics of the Upside Down and into the core cosmic logic of the entire franchise. The final episode, appropriately titled The Right Side Up, gave us the definitive answer.
To the nature of the crisis itself.
Exactly. It was never just a dark copy of their town. It was a physical, scientifically anchored point of friction. Understanding this shift is vital to understanding why the hero's final strategy actually worked.
Let's start right there then with the physics,
Yeah.
because the finale fundamentally changed the rule book for what the protagonists were fighting.
It really did.
For 4 seasons, we all operated under the assumption that the Upside Down was simply a parallel dimension, perhaps an alternate timeline that mirrored Earth. But the sources confirm the lore evolved far beyond that. The Upside Down is, terrifyingly, not a parallel dimension, but an unstable, interdimensional wormhole.
A bridge. Exactly. It's the conduit, the connecting tunnel, rather than a separate habitable world. The analysis confirms that this bridge connects our reality, what the show calls the right side up, Earth, Hawkins, to a far older, much more primordial planetary dimension.
And that's the abyss.
The show's related media and the deeper lore analysis refers to this true origin point as the abyss, sometimes labeled Dimension X. The Upside Down is literally the chaotic, unstable dimensional space sandwiched between our world and the abyss.
So the Upside Down isn't a place that exists naturally. It's a structural accident, a tear in the fabric of space-time.
Precisely.
That elevates the stakes immensely, doesn't it? It suggests Vecna wasn't just conquering a neighboring territory, he was actively collapsing the separation between 2 incompatible realities.
He was. And this new understanding helps rationalize the most frightening detail. Why did the Upside Down look exactly like Hawkins yet remain stuck in time? It wasn't organic, it was an echo, a memory.
A photographic imprint.
The sources confirm it was what the researchers eventually labeled a photographic imprint.
That is a deeply unsettling term, isn't it? It means the Upside Down remained frozen at November 6, 1983, because that was the precise moment 11 in the lab opened the Mother Gate.
It imprinted the geometry of the world at that exact second.
Think about the psychological horror of that for a moment. It's a literal time capsule of trauma.
It is. And since there was no continuous sentient activity within the Upside Down itself, it was merely the bridge, the connecting space to update its architecture, its structure remained static.
Which explains why Nancy's 1986 journals weren't there.
But old lab papers from 1983 were still perfectly intact on dusty desks. It's not just a dark world, it's a non-functional, decaying memory of the moment disaster struck.
That's a powerful visual. A world built entirely on a single catastrophic moment, But if it's just an unstable bridge, something must have been powering it. What was acting as the structural cement?
That's where the necessary scientific detail comes in, and this is crucial for understanding the final objectives of Operation Beanstalk. The bridge, that unstable wormhole, was artificially sustained by a substance known as exotic matter.
Artificially sustained.
That's the key phrase.
Exotic matter. That sounds like something straight out of high-energy physics, something we perhaps shouldn't be discussing so casually, but here we are.
Absolutely. In the context of the lore, this matter manifested physically as a hugely energetic, electrified, and hovering sphere situated directly above the ruins of the Hawkins National Lab within the Upside Down.
So this sphere was the heart of it all?
Essentially, yes. It was the literal energetic heart of the interdimensional friction, the continuous fuel source that kept the photographic imprint from decaying and allowed Vecna to use it as a staging ground.
So the objective becomes clear.
Destroy that exotic matter sphere, you collapse the bridge entirely, and restore dimensional stability to Hawkins.
Right, so Vecna, or Henry Creel, wasn't just looking to sustain the bridge, he was trying to use it as a launch pad for total dimensional conquest. His endgame, the Tesseract collapse. It was truly megalomaniacal.
It was. Vecna's desire was to merge the abyss dimension X and Earth using a precise geometric function. He was attempting what the analysts describe as a space-time fold.
Essentially creating a Tesseract structure.
Exactly. A Tesseract, for those unfamiliar, is a hypothetical four-dimensional cube. Folding reality into that shape requires massive targeted energy, which he planned to generate by using exactly 12 kidnapped children as anchor points.
We saw these poor kids, including Holly Wheeler, who had that chilling psychic exchange with Vecna and Derek Turnbow, being held captive in Vecna's mind space,
Which he called Camazotz.
based entirely on his deeply traumatic childhood memories. But why, specifically, the number 12? This detail became the absolute obsession of the fandom.
Oh, everyone was mapping Tesseract geometry, linking it to the clock face, the 12 apostles, all sorts of cosmic connections.
And this is where we need to insert a critical assessment of the writing, isn't it? Because it led to some viewer frustration.
It did. While fans meticulously connected the number 12 to high-concept geometry, like the 12 edges of a tesseract or the 12 primary points on a clock face, the Duffer brothers later pulled the rug out from under the theorists.
They just said it meant nothing.
They stated that the number 12 had no specific hidden complex meaning linked to the lore.
Wait, hold on a moment. That completely undercuts the characterization of Vecna, doesn't it? He's presented as this meticulous, time-obsessed arch-villain who plans every murder according to a clock motif.
Right.
Yet the most crucial mathematical component of his world-ending plan was just arbitrary.
That's the tension the critique highlighted. It raises a really important question. Why establish a villain so obsessed with clockwork precision only to dismiss the precision of his final mechanism?
So for Vecna, the number 12 felt less like a necessary geometric constant and more like
A convenient placeholder. A number high enough to signal massive energy, but not necessarily tied to the dimensional physics. It felt half-baked to many viewers who expected true internal consistency.
I think that's a fair assessment. It demonstrates that Vecna was perhaps not the metaphysical mastermind he thought he was.
But rather a powerful conduit, simply fulfilling the Mind Flayer's broader, more primal, cosmic demand for dimensional collapse.
Nonetheless, the number of anchors was 12, the stakes were absolute merger, and the heroes had to respond with the only unified strategy that made sense. The three-pronged counterattack. Operation Beanstalk.
Operation Beanstalk was truly comprehensive. It recognized that the threat existed simultaneously across 3 layers of reality. It was a brilliant move because attacking on one front wouldn't have been enough.
You had to hit everything at once.
You had to attack the physical power source, the psychic conductor, and the ultimate mastermind all at the same time.
Let's break down the tactical groups, starting with the highest risk deployment, the physical strike team. That was the quartet of Steve, Nancy, Jonathan, and Dustin.
Their mission was existential. Infiltrate the Upside Down lab and destroy the exotic matter sphere. The peril was immediate, particularly for Steve.
We saw the worlds already beginning to shift and merge as they raced to the target.
And Steve, in a moment of reckless bravery, nearly slid to his death down the radio tower as the physical ground beneath them liquefied due to the dimensional stress.
Jonathan barely managed to pull him back up in time. It was that necessary high-stakes moment where we thought one of our core friends might not make it. The tension was palpable.
Thankfully, our beloved Steve survived that harrowing descent, ready to tackle the physical side of the war.
Then you had the psychic support, Team 11, Hopper, and Kali.
8, yes. Eleven channeled her immense power, using the familiar medium of the water tank in a hidden warehouse to project her consciousness into Vecna's mind space, Camazotz.
Her objective wasn't just to fight Henry, but to free the kidnapped children, to neutralize the anchor points before the Tesseract collapse could be completed.
Right. And finally, the team that carried the heaviest emotional baggage, the diversionary team Will, Mike, and Lucas.
Their task was the most delicate. Focus entirely on leveraging Will's established yet terrifying connection to the hive mind to distract Vecna at the absolutely crucial moment Eleven needed to strike.
And Will's journey here, moving from the unwilling victim of the Upside Down's influence to actively wielding that connection as a weapon, is the single most satisfying emotional arc of the entire final battle.
It unified all three teams.
It did. The physical team providing the structural collapse, the psychic team attacking the villain's mind, and the diversion team delivering the momentary tactical opening. It was a complex, well-executed strategy forged in years of accumulated trauma and knowledge.
So as we transition into the resolution, we need to address that lingering question about the true villain of the series. Throughout Season 4, the fandom debated fiercely. Was Vecna controlling the Mind Flayer, or was it the other way around?
And the finale provided the definitive, complex truth. It was confirmed to be a voluntary alliance, yet one with a clear, unsettling hierarchy.
Vecna, or Henry Creel, certainly suffered from the delusion of ultimate control. He truly believed he was the sovereign king of this new world.
But the deep dive analysis reveals the chilling truth. The Mind Flayer is an independent, ancient, and truly Lovecraftian entity. It had been using Henry as a highly effective, highly motivated vessel ever since he was banished to Dimension X years ago.
So Henry's ambition was always just a useful tool for a much older primal force.
Precisely. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, but the primordial entity held the grander, overarching ambition, the desire to merge its reality with ours. Henry was the brilliant, vengeful mind, but the Mind Flayer was the cosmic engine.
Vecna even admitted this subtle subservience to Will, didn't he?
He did. He said, "I could have resisted it, but I chose to join it. It needs me, and I need it. We are one." That declaration seals Henry's fate. It confirms his ultimate, irredeemable choice for destruction and power.
It removes any possibility of a tragic turn or final act of pity.
Absolutely. And that context makes Will Byers' final action all the more heroic. The victim finally stops running.
Mike realizes that hurting the Mind Flayer weakens the human conductor, Vecna.
And Will, finally embracing the trauma that defined his childhood, channels his connection to the hive mind to hack Vecna's focus.
This is a powerful, cathartic moment. Will's ability to inflict psychic pain on Vecna, distracting him for those precious few seconds, was the culmination of his entire arc.
He wasn't just disrupting the connection. He was emotionally asserting his independence and strength. His declaration in the heat of battle, "I'm not afraid anymore," is him reclaiming his soul.
From the creature that had haunted and defined his adolescence, it's the emotional hinge point that allows the physical and psychic strikes to land.
And with that distraction secured, 11 was given her opening,
leading to the final, brutal execution of Henry Creel. 11 collapses his psychic core by driving Vecna's back into a massive, jagged spire within the abyss. But the literal killing blow,
the most visceral act of closure in the entire series,
is delivered by Joyce Byers.
The creators made an immensely potent decision here. It was not the psychic super soldier nor the military who finished the monster. It was the mother.
The character who started the entire saga by fighting phantom lights and impossible phone calls to save her son.
Joyce, using a simple fireman's axe, delivers the decisive decapitation to Vecna in the abyss.
It provides complete narrative symmetry. Joyce, the first character to truly believe, the emotional backbone of the entire saga,
cites the totality of the pain he caused her family, from Will's disappearance to Hopper's struggles in Russia to the unending trauma of Hawkins, before delivering the final, messy end.
The finality of that moment, saying she was done with the trauma he inflicted, gives her the closure she earned more than anyone else.
The monster is not only defeated, but definitively unmade by the person he hurt the most. It's superb character resolution. However, victory always comes at a devastating cost in this world.
Right. And the deep dive confirms several key casualties. We know Vecna and the Mind Flayer are definitively gone. The Mind Flayer dissolves when Vecna dies, confirming it was structurally dependent on him,
removing it as a future, independent villain.
But we tragically lost 11's sister, Kali.
8. And Kali's death was explicitly a sacrificial act. She steps in front of an attack meant specifically for 11, solidifying a bond of sisterhood that had been fraught with ideological conflict throughout the season.
She had long argued that the cycle of abuse would never end unless 11 embraced a path of ruthless self-protection.
Or even martyrdom, to prevent the military from exploiting her powers. Her sacrifice flips that script entirely. She dies to ensure 11 could live freely and pursue the happy days Hopper had talked about.
It reinforces the love between them and gives 11 the motivation to choose freedom over martyrdom.
Exactly. Beyond Kali and Vecna, multiple military personnel were caught in the catastrophic crossfire of the merging worlds.
And for the record, Steve Harrington did, thankfully, survive the radio tower incident despite the extreme fan anxiety.
He did. So with the primary metaphysical anchor defeated, Hopper and Murray Bauman initiated the final physical act of closure.
They detonate a huge bomb near the exotic matter sphere, the energy source we discussed earlier, and the Upside Down lab.
And it was detonated to the soundtrack of Prince's When Doves Cry, which is just a pitch-perfect piece of 80s melancholic scoring for the destruction of an entire dimension.
That detonation successfully collapses the interdimensional bridge, eliminating the wormhole and making Hawkins permanently safe. The sources confirm that the immediate external threat to the town is gone.
Crucially, the sources emphasize the extremely narrow window of escape. This final breach and detonation occurs just as the group is being apprehended by Dr. K's military forces.
The same forces determined to re-enslave 11.
And that timing is what sets the stage for the most debated and most intentionally ambiguous moment in the entire finale, the fate of 11 herself.
Okay, this is where we shift from definitive closure to calculated mystery. As the wormhole collapses and the military descends, 11 makes a truly monumental decision.
Influenced by Kali's sacrifice.
She stays behind in the collapsing Upside Down, seemingly disintegrating in the gate's rupture. This act was meant to prevent the ethically compromised Dr. K and the military from ever capturing and exploiting her powers again.
To end the cycle of abuse.
And the creators were extremely upfront about their narrative goal here. The Duffer Brothers stated there was never a version of the story where 11 was hanging out with the gang at the end.
They were resolute about forcing the audience and the remaining characters into a state of intentional ambiguity, where you had to choose hope over truth.
Which is compelling thematic storytelling, but obviously generated enormous debate about whether she was truly martyred or cunningly escaped.
And the source material immediately leans into the escape theory, thanks to Mike.
His D&D epilogue story. It proposes a much more hopeful reality. That Kali, in her final moments, used her illusion powers to fake 11's death, allowing the real 11 to escape and go into hiding.
He described her walking toward 3 waterfalls, symbolizing peace and a world where no one knew she was alive.
Mike's theory, while framed as the desperate, wishful thinking of a heartbroken boyfriend, is actually the narrative key.
It is. It is heavily supported by 5 subtle, specific forensic clues embedded in that final chaotic sequence clues that were absolutely intentional.
We need to slow down and unpack these because they collectively make a powerful argument for her survival and evasion.
Let's treat it like a cold case investigation.
I like it. So we're looking for high-stakes evidence of evasion. First, we need to return to Kali's change of heart. This ideological pivot is the foundational reason the escape might have been possible.
Kali was historically the cynical one, the nihilist, who preached that death was the only escape from the lab's control.
Right.
Her attitude shifts dramatically after she overhears Hopper's incredibly heartfelt, raw speech to 11 about fighting for happy days and finding a world beyond Hawkins.
Hopper's raw, emotional plea seems to puncture her dark worldview.
Her expression changes dramatically as she lowers her weapon, realizing there might be a better path than martyrdom. This pivotal shift likely motivated her to use her illusion powers, not for an attack, but for Elle's escape.
Giving her sister the freedom she herself never found, that reframes her sacrifice as a redemption of her own philosophy, not just a physical act of protection.
Okay, secondly, we have the incredibly powerful technical detail that breaks the logic of her demise, the kryptonite paradox.
This is a massive piece of evidence.
Remember, the military was actively blasting those high-frequency sonic devices, their designated kryptonite, near the gate when the crew was apprehended.
The same devices that paralyze psychics.
Right. If 11 were physically standing there in the direct line of the sonic barrage, she would have been instantly paralyzed and rendered unable to use her powers.
Yet she was able to pull Mike into her mind for that intense, emotional farewell.
Communicating psychically right before she vanished. The fact that she was able to use her full psychic capabilities strongly suggests she was physically not in the blast range, but was communicating from a safe, hidden distance.
So the figure, seen dissolving in the gate,
Was almost certainly Kali's elaborately staged psychic projection or illusion, masking the real Eleven's physical escape moments earlier. The logic of the sonic weapon completely undermines the visual evidence of her physical presence.
that completely flips the script. Okay, moving on to the third clue, which is a massive continuity break if we assume she died. The lack of a nosebleed.
Throughout the entire run of this series, we have been consistently shown the physical cost of Eleven's power expenditure every time she performs a significant psychic feat.
Especially one as complex as initiating a conversation with Mike across dimensions.
She suffers a nosebleed. That is the visual payment, the signature mark of her exertion.
Exactly.
Yet the figure seen interacting with Mike and then dissolving shows absolutely no signs of blood on her face. This absence is a massive, deliberate continuity oversight, unless the figure was, as Mike theorized, merely a residual psychic projection.
An illusion created by Kali, meaning the real 11 was already safe and therefore not expending energy in that moment.
It's a key piece of visual forensics that supports the escape narrative.
The fourth point is one you need to listen closely for. An auditory detail that anchors the sense of survival. The audio clues.
This one is incredibly subtle and beautifully crafted. Immediately after the wormhole collapses, the screen goes black, and the massive soundscape of the battle falls into an unnatural, profound silence. But then,
If you listen extremely closely,
you hear a deep, intentional exhale, followed by a faint, steady heartbeat.
a sound suggesting a life beginning anew, not a life ending in disintegration.
It's the sound of a first breath of freedom. It's an auditory confirmation that the real 11 survived, inhaling the air of a world beyond Hawkins, a world free from her captors and the trauma of the lab.
It is a powerful non-visual hint that the show's creators used to reward those listening intently for the host they were supposed to choose.
And finally, the fifth clue, which is my favorite piece of literary evidence that seals the deal on Mike's theory, the literary Easter egg.
It's right there on Mike's basement bookshelf.
Yes, during the epilogue scene, we get a fleeting but highly intentional glimpse of Mike's personal reading material. Prominently displayed is the novel The Empty Copper Sea by John D. MacDonald.
Now that is far too specific to be accidental.
Absolutely. The core plot of that particular mystery novel revolves around a man who meticulously and successfully fakes his own death and subsequently flees to another country to start a new life.
The creators essentially provided the key to the entire mystery via a book title.
It's the creators providing the answer through literary analogy, which aligns perfectly with Mike evolving into the storyteller of the group.
So the narrative structure, the subtle technical flaws in the death scene, the audio confirmation, and the literary signpost all strongly point to one conclusion.
11 is alive, but officially missing and dead to the world. She chose freedom and evasion, ensuring Dr. K could never use her again, rather than becoming a martyr to the cause.
It's an incredibly bittersweet victory for her personally. She saved the world, she achieved independence, but her reward is eternal separation from the people she fought alongside and loves deeply. She is free, but she is, for now, alone.
The ultimate sacrifice was her normal life.
With the greatest threat vanquished and the fate of the protagonist settled into hopeful ambiguity, the show jumps forward 18 months later to June 1989.
This epilogue had the challenging task of providing necessary emotional closure for all the surviving characters, showing us what normal looks like after a decade of fighting dimensional horror.
The rifts are closed, the military is gone, and Hawkins is attempting to heal. And this time jump gave us brilliant, slightly hilarious updates on the older crew. We see Steve Harrington
finally embracing a definitive post-Demogorgon role.
becoming a high school baseball coach and wonderfully a sex ed teacher. He's evolved beautifully from the reckless jock into a community protector and mentor.
It's the logical conclusion to his arc, using his leadership skills to protect and guide others, albeit in a far less supernatural context.
Nancy, meanwhile, dropped out of Emerson and took a tough trainee position at the Boston Herald.
Finally pursuing her passion for investigative journalism in the big leagues. She's moved on from Hawkins, but kept the core of her identity intact.
And Jonathan has finally followed his creative passion, heading to NYU for filmmaking.
Supposedly working on an anti-capitalist cannibal movie, which honestly sounds exactly like the kind of deeply serious, slightly brooding project Jonathan would pitch.
And Robin is attending Smith College, keeping their group centered in the Northeast.
The sources confirm they have established a promise to meet monthly at Robin's weird uncle's house in Philadelphia. This detail is crucial. It serves as a quiet assurance to the audience that the deep bonds forged in trauma are still intact.
Even as their adult lives diverge. And for the parental figures, Hopper and Joyce finally found the stability they deserved. They are engaged.
They are dancing together after Hopper's extremely long-awaited formal proposal. And he proposed to move to Montauk, Long Island.
Now, that Montauk reference caused a major flurry of speculation, didn't it? Fans immediately assumed it was a geographic hint at a spin-off.
It did, but the creators definitively confirmed that this was merely a deep-cut Easter egg for longtime fans. The show's original production title, before it was set in fictional Hawkins, was Montauk.
So a charming nod to the show's initial concept, not a clue about the future. The most poignant emotional farewell, however, belongs to the original core group: Mike, Will, Dustin, Lucas, and Max.
Who, thankfully, is recovering from her debilitating Season 4 injuries and is finally back among them, sharing a moment of normalcy. They share one last D&D campaign in Mike's basement.
This scene is heavy with transition and symbolism. They are consciously closing a chapter.
They put away their D&D binders, signifying the definitive end of their shared childhood. They are stepping into adulthood, consciously letting go of the magic that defined their youth.
And Mike's role fundamentally shifts here. He evolves into the storyteller, the chronicler, tasked with preserving the memory and myth of Eleven.
Even as Will finds the acceptance he craves and plans his move away from the geographic center of the trauma to New York City.
And as the original party leaves the basement, symbolizing their transition to the real world, the show offers the perfect, beautiful metaphor for its enduring legacy: the next generation.
Holly Wheeler, Mike's younger sister, and her friends claim the D&D table.
It's a wonderful, optimistic moment, signaling the passing of the torch. The interdimensional horror is gone, but the spirit of imagination, of community, survives in the younger generation.
The Hawkins story has achieved complete closure, but the idea of the story continues.
But right when you feel that lovely wave of closure, that everything is finally okay, the creators drop the true spin-off catalyst.
The single definitive and absolutely shocking loose end that confirms the original horror isn't quite over. It was merely relocated.
We need to focus on a chilling flashback memory of young Henry Creel.
This memory, shown toward the end of the final volume, provides vital context for Henry's initial infection or acquisition of powers. He is seen discovering a scientist's briefcase. Inside that briefcase is a small, unnervingly luminous chunk of a glowing rock substance.
This is the key, that one specific detail. The Duffer Brothers explicitly confirmed that this glowing rock is the original source of the exotic matter we discussed in Part 1.
It is the original catalyst for Henry's powers and his initial connection to the Mind Flayer. It's the origin point of the dimensional crisis.
And that glowing rock, left purposely unresolved, is the single tiny crack in the door left ajar for the entire franchise's future.
And why focus on that specific element rather than another Demogorgon or a new gate? Because it shifts the mythology entirely away from the Upside Down and toward a different source of horror: human scientific arrogance.
This means the upcoming live-action spin-off won't be about saving Hawkins again. The creators stated the spin-off will delve into the lore of that rock and the scientist who carried it.
And it will take place in a significantly different decade, likely much earlier, perhaps the 1940s or 1950s, directly tied to early Cold War government experimentation.
Perhaps referencing theories surrounding Project Rainbow, which was already rumored in the lore to involve travel to Dimension X.
Exactly. Rather than escalating the threat from an external dimension, the spin-off is going backward in time to explore the precise moment humanity willingly manufactured this danger.
It's a focus on the ethical malpractice of the institutions that set the stage for Henry Creel in the events of 1983.
The show confirmed that the Mind Flayer did not find humanity. Humanity, through scientific carelessness, found the mechanism that allowed the Mind Flayer to connect.
So the new story will feature new characters and explore a completely different mythology than the Upside Down or the Mind Flayer we just spent 5 seasons destroying.
The tension comes from the audience knowing the tragic outcome. The scientific research we see in the 40s or 50s eventually leads to the creation of the monster that destroys Hawkins in the 80s.
The fear shifts from coming-of-age horror to institutional paranoia and the unforgivable sin of scientific hubris.
It's an incredibly clever and disciplined move by the creators. They delivered the ending we crave for our heroes, ensuring their peace, but they simultaneously resurrected the core problem of the universe by tracing it back to a pre-existing element of cosmic horror, that glowing rock.
The thread is contained in Hawkins, but the source material is now out in the world in a different time, ready to be exploited again.
So let's synthesize the enormous amount of analysis we've covered in this deep dive.
The Hawkins saga, centered on the fight against Vecna and the destruction of the dimensional bridge, achieved true earned closure. Vecna is dead, the physical bridge is destroyed, and the primary characters found peace or defined new adult paths.
Yet the story's underlying mythology is not contained. It's merely been relocated and reassigned to a different era. This raises an important question.
If the original series was fundamentally about the resilience of the human spirit, the power of friendship, growing up, and overcoming external horror, what happens when the next story looks backward?
When it explores the moment humanity willingly manufactured and unleashed that danger in the first place.
The focus shifts entirely, doesn't it? We move from the kids fighting monsters they didn't understand to the morally compromised adults and institutions who created them through their own arrogance.
It's a subtle but deeply terrifying pivot. They gave us the emotional ending we needed for our friends, the D&D game put away, the freedom for 11 subtly confirmed, but they left behind the ultimate piece of cosmic horror in that glowing rock.
Confirming that the initial danger was rooted in human curiosity and greed.
The destruction of the wormhole bridge was meant to break the cycle of dimensional trauma for the Hawkins survivors. But the glowing rock confirms the cycle of curiosity, malpractice, and institutional secrecy is eternal.
The initial spark is still out there, ready to ignite the next catastrophe in a different location.
And that leaves us with our final provocative thought for you, the learner.
The Hawkins group had to fight for a world beyond Hawkins, a future free of monsters. But what kind of terrifying reality will the next generation inherit, taking place in a timeline that, having learned nothing from the first contact, is already set on the path to catastrophe?
The horror isn't just lurking in the shadows. It was being actively incubated and weaponized in a Cold War lab years before 11 was even born. That's the true definition of a terrifying prequel.